Hi there.
How are we?
I am doing good. How are you?
I'm okay. Podcast number 6.
Yep. Number 6. Sorry, I was just drinking my tea there.
Oh, I've got some water. What kind of tea are you drinking?
It's Standard Tetley. Standard Tetley.
Santé. I thought you'd be
I haven't
more of
had.
a green tea or maybe
Well, I was just
chamomile.
thinking that I haven't had a green tea for a long time, but I've got green tea we bought from Costco about a year ago, and we've still got like about 200 of them.
Well, you're in lockdown, so
Yeah,
make
I
the
better
most
start.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got a bit of a plan, have we not, for this one? We're going to try and get it under the hour.
Yeah, we need to be under there. We need to be more
Under the hour.
concise.
I know it doesn't feel quite right, does it, to say to folk, hey, how do you manage to get the time to do fitness and then expect them to listen to an hour and a half of us rambling on?
This is very true, and I think part of the problem is that we end up rambling for the first. In fact, I listened back.
45 minutes.
I'm sure there was a record where we were like almost 40 minutes before we even got to fact check. So we need to improve on that. So, how are you doing? How's lockdown? How are you managing?
As I said last time, lockdown's doing okay for me. Fitness twice a day, yoga twice a day,
Yeah,
with a little bit more on top.
twice a day.
Sleeping twice a day now, twice a day.
Wow.
Yep. Actually, see, posting it up on Instagram is good from that perspective because it kind of makes you want to do it again.
Right.
You kind of, because sometimes you go, I'll not bother this like in the morning, but I'll just do it. I need to do it because I think, I should post it because it keeps me going. It's just kind of like going like playing football or something. You can't bother playing football or a team sport.
Yeah.
You don't want to let folk down, so I've kind of got that relationship with Instagram at the moment.
And do you know what I've noticed? Actually, you're starting to talk a bit like a yogi. I think
You think?
Yeah, I think maybe you're en route to becoming a yogi. What do you think?
I've got a slight niggle in the back of my head that says I should maybe try and I actually did look into it, and it's 200 hours, a minimum of 200 to be classed or to be allowed to be classed as a yoga instructor. You need to do 200 hours of training.
Really?
Yeah.
The problem for you too, though, is on the spiritual side, you're dead inside. So, so that would be an issue too. But 200 hours, that's ridiculous.
Namaste, brother. Namaste.
Namaste.
No, 200 hours. So I have actually looked into it, and I've got a slight, if I keep this up and keep enjoying it like I am, then it's not massively out of the question, because even if it takes 5, 6, 7 years or something, doing something part time, I'm doing it anyway. So if I don't know how easy it is to do it if you have to go on and physically have someone instruct you and
Assess you.
and then also assess you and all that, but who knows?
But see the thing. Surely that's the next step, because if you're now,
Yeah.
yoga was something you were posting in between other stuff. If you think back to when you started, and it was in the gym
Yep.
and all that sort of stuff, and now it's
Yep.
predominantly yoga. And actually, the next step is for you to do a yoga session on YouTube. Maybe that's one of our challenges. You have to record a yoga session and I have to do it.
Yeah, could do that.
That's a good
Could
idea.
do that.
That's a
Right,
good
write that
idea.
down.
Right,
Write
okay.
that down. I did actually, interestingly, just as a slight aside, Craig's obviously bust his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was talking about not being able to do anything. So I made up a little routine from him, but recorded it. It was just after I did a yoga session, recorded it, and then I thought I'll just keep recording and do a kind of routine that avoids using your right foot.
Yep.
And so I gave him a series of exercises. Just do that. So I could do it.
See, right, I think you should. Right, deal. Right,
Mhm.
that's what we'll do.
It'll need to be called bad yoga.
Bad yoga. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Or it'll be me listening to someone that can actually do yoga, recording me telling you what to do.
I know, and I told you that's what last time I said to you as well, that what I struggled with was actually the whole, like, having to watch someone doing the move, try and do the move, then try and do the breathing, and then before I managed to do what I meant to be doing, we've moved on to something else.
What I'm actually finding now is that quite often they're moving through poses more quickly than I want to, and I'm finding myself just sticking to a pose for a little bit longer and then just kind of catching up or just
Right.
missing out something next, and so starting to slowly move into that space where I kind of get a lot of the postures Not a lot of them. I get basic postures, and therefore I could do a few things myself.
And then you always do your videos speeded up, don't you? So it's like it's a time lapse type thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just to disguise the fact that I can't do it properly. No, it's actually cause the reason is because Instagram's obviously short, sharp. I know there's Instagram TV now, but it's not about folk watching me to learn how to do stuff.
Yeah.
Because I'm following all those ones on. It's actually it's helping me post. It's quite fun because the kids get involved, particularly Theo's crawling around. So it's just a kind of fun thing.
Yeah.
It helps with some decent music in the background, and it helps me stay focused on it. So it's good. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. Yoga, sleep's been okay, diet's been slightly better, but nothing much to write home about. But yeah, I've managed to do at least two sessions of yoga per day, plus a couple of little runs or family walks or stuff in the garden as well. So I'd say all good from a fitness and health perspective.
Yeah, okay. Yoga's been pretty poor. I don't think I've done any in the last week. Maybe, yeah, I can't remember. I'll need to check back. But I've not been too good on the yoga side. Meditation's been pretty poor, although I did manage a couple of meditations over the last week. But everything else is going well. I mean, I'm pretty consistently exercising, like a run usually every couple of days. I did a 10k last weekend and managed in under 50 minutes, which is the first time since I was probably about 10 years younger that I did that. And I
under
did
50 minutes, did you say?
50 minutes, yes, under 50
Nice
minutes. So that was pretty good. And then yesterday I ran 7.5 miles, I think, in just under an hour. So running wise has been going well. Trying to mix up with a bit of weights. Sleep's been okay. Diet's probably got a bit rubbish, just because I'm getting a bit fed up now, and it's easy to snack, and we're buying lots more sweets and chocolate and all that sort of stuff, and a couple of takeaways as well. So, but yeah, other than that, I can't really complain. Work's still pretty crazy, and I'm ready to murder my children. So that is the one thing that's probably been hard over the last week. I think we're reaching breaking point. I mean, this is what, week 5, 6, something like that.
5 or 6. Yeah.
And yeah, they're climbing the walls, and I think they're getting bored now of homeschooling and starting to push it a little bit. Yeah, so that's been challenging.
How's the structure going? Are you managing to?
Okay,
are they basically doing a school day?
Still the same thing. Still the poster up on the wall, and they have to conform every day, and they go through certain lessons, and then mix up a bit of free time and things. But they're definitely pushing it a bit more. So, but yeah, there still is some structure. I think probably when they were off over Easter, that didn't help, because they weren't doing anything. I know some people actually kept that structure going over the Easter holidays deliberately to ease that transition, which was probably quite a good idea, but we didn't do that. And they've kind of struggled to come back a little bit. And as you've heard before, when Oliver burst in earlier on, we've now entered the month of May, so therefore every single minute of every single day is round about the fact that it's his birthday on the 12th, and what are we getting him? How many presents is he getting? How many surprises is he getting? Is that package at the door for him? What was the first thing he said to you when he came on?
It's my birthday.
It's my birthday, yeah. So he's just, what a boy, honestly. So that's been quite difficult, quite challenging.
And you've been working. You've been going out to work still, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm still working 2 to 3 days a week.
Jeez, you imagine you were in the house 7 days a week.
Oh, I know. And actually, do you know what? It's like I'd rather go out and take my chances with COVID than sit and be in the house. I honestly don't know how you do it, because there's a definite element of days at work are a bit of a break from home. And but also days at home are a bit of a break from work, because it's a strange thing. You can get things done at home that you would ordinarily not be able to do at work, and vice versa. It's just a weird setup, and work's a strange situation as well. And probably you'll find when you go back to the office, in some shape or form, and I guess that's what everyone who's been in lockdown over this period of time will find, who haven't actually left the house and do eventually return to work in some shape or form, it's like a different environment because no one's sitting at desks beside each other. Everyone's hot desking apart. You have meetings in Teams or or whatever people use, but actually you're all in the building, but you're sitting in different meeting rooms. And doing this electronically,
and that's gonna be with us for a long time.
Absolutely, it will be for a long time, and it's strange. But I mean, I think I haven't actually told the listeners what my job is, and you'll probably fall asleep at this point. But so I work for the blood transfusion service, but we're actually involved in a number of different potential therapies for this. One of which is convalescent plasma, which gets quite a lot of PR, and it's been talked about a lot in the press. But we're also working on other therapies and helping with testing and stuff like that. So we're not front line, but we're involved in, I guess, the COVID related work. And it's really weird because we still have to maintain what we do normally, which is supply blood and tissues and cells and different services to patients. But at the same time, we've completely changed our strategy to focus on things that can help this unique need. So yeah, it's a strange time. But yeah, so other than that, can't really complain. People are dying. What can you say? It's the UK is getting worse and worse. I think when we talk back about coronavirus originally, we were talking about being in the same trajectory as Italy. It now looks like we're going to be worse than Italy. Boris Johnson is still. What did he say last week? Was it people will be looking at the UK's success? You're like, what?
Yeah.
We were washing our hands for 2 weeks when everyone else was locking down, and I think, as you and I talked about before, we're paying the penalty for that. But it's going to be a new way of life for a long time, and it could be worse. We could be in the States, because what the hell is going on over there? So
I think I seem to be. Well, it's funny. A couple of polls for those that can work from home seem to still want to work from home beyond this. So I think there's quite a lot of people that if they could, they would. Now, there's a lot of people that obviously would like to go to work and stuff, and then there'll be other circumstances that mean people want to get out of the house and yada yada yada. But from my perspective, I'm quite enjoying this because it's going to end at some point.
Yeah.
So you always got to remember that this is not for. I mean, imagine you're at war.
Yeah.
So folk in countries that are at war for years and years and years, and it would be an utter nightmare. This is gonna end, and you're relatively. So from that perspective, it could be a hell of a lot worse.
Oh, absolutely. And do you know what? That's a really good point, because you and I obviously are still working and can continue, pretty much to do our job being at home. It must be really, I mean, for all those people who have either lost their jobs, which is horrendous, people who are obviously losing loved ones, which is even worse, and for people who have been like furloughed and they're sort of sitting at home.
Furloughed, yeah.
Yeah, and just like, that must be difficult when you're not actually working, or if you work in an area whereby it's impossible for you to work from home, so you're just sitting in every day twiddling your thumbs. That must be challenging. And the thing that I've been thinking too is that we've been really lucky with the weather, which for living in the west of Scotland is a gamble at the best of times, but the weather's been pretty amazing for the whole time that we've been in this situation. Can't complain, can we?
I was going to say something there, but I can't remember.
Fact check.
So that's probably, I was going to say that's probably a nice segue into fact checking.
Because we're 15 minutes into this, so I
that's
think
not bad.
Yeah,
good half an hour.
So we need to do that. I think we limit ourselves to 15 minute of rambling, and then we go into fact checks, and fact checks can be no longer than 15 minutes, and that gives us a good half an hour to then talk about the main subject area of today. Which I think is what, social media and fake news. Is that what we decided on?
Yeah, social media and fake news. It seems quite apt right now.
Yeah.
We've kind of covered COVID in a couple of angles, and actually I spent some time on Twitter, and I've had some conversations with people, and it's just insane, some of the fake news out there. So it seems apt.
Yep. Right.
So let's talk about that. So fact check then.
Fact check, and let's tell our listeners who did all of the fact checking this week.
So you did something else for once. That's good, Ian.
Because my sound engineer was too busy to do this as well. So and I have to say, when we started, actually, I was quite surprised by how many of the facts were right. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but the fact
because we said it was one thing.
Yeah, but
then
it
turns out
point,
it was that thing.
The whole point about fact check and us is that we are we don't have huge confidence in our facts, so therefore we like to verify them, and I think that's appropriate, because then otherwise we're fake news, yeah. So it's
totally.
the right thing to do. So anyway, we'll crack off, right? So
We'll crack off.
we'll crack off, yeah. So no, that crack off, not crack one off. Let's just qualify that. First one, WD-40. What does it stand for? And I said water displacement version 40, and I was right. So WD-40 was actually, I believe, invented in the States by a company originally, I think, it was like for missiles or something, and they were using it as a way to ensure that when they launched missiles that they wouldn't actually get screwed up by water in the missile of some shape or form. And then that company
wouldn't get screwed up by water.
Yes, I know that sounds ridiculous. I now need to fact check my fact again.
Fact check.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact. It was something to do with missiles, right? But the fact in question was the fact that it was WD-40, water displacement 40, and it was indeed the 40th version that they tested. And that company did so well out of this that it then actually it became the WD company. So there we go. So that's number one.
Nice.
Are we doing these turnabout? How do you want to do it?
Okay, let's do a turnabout then. So the next one was, are the vast majority of infections around COVID-19 from close contact to aerosol droplets directly from someone who has it? And the answer is yes. Who said most droplets when someone coughs, sneezes or speaks, heavy and sink quickly, can land on surfaces. So yeah, basically the World Health Organization says it is droplets. It's coughing and sneezing, and then those droplets hitting a surface, and if you then touch them and then touch your face, then you're likely to get it. Or if someone obviously sneezes or coughs directly into your face, you're likely to catch it.
And even speaking, that's what I found quite interesting. That, you know, if say, and
you're spitting in
but
people.
you do.
I mean,
you don't. Obviously, people don't realise that, but or even just exhaling kind of close to people, right? You can realise it. Well, that's why you love lockdown and Skype rather than me sitting spitting all over you in the studio. But no, like just talking to someone, if you're having a pint and you're quite close to someone, it's really easy to actually infect people in that. But what I found interesting was actually this whole 2 metre rule that we're practicing in the UK. That actually all the scientific evidence suggests that a metre's fine, and actually it's quite a significant difference, because you can understand that they're erring on the side of caution with 2 metres, but from a social distancing point of view, and you think about actually going back to how this is going to work in society when we go back to some form of normality, the difference between 1 metre and 2 metres is quite significant in terms of how that would work in society and you know public transport and all that sort of stuff. So there isn't. It's quite interesting that the WHO, they only talk about a metre. This 2 metres I think is a UK thing that we've come up with. Probably because we realised we'd been washing our hands for 2 weeks and everyone was infected. So,
do you think masks will take on?
Probably. I mean, I've got a funny story there. So I tried to order one because I said to the wife, you know, that the Scottish government had advocated wearing masks when you go to the supermarket, didn't they? And so I said I should buy one of these snood things. They look quite cool. So I had a look at a couple of websites and I found the Columbia one, and I thought, that was quite good. That'd be useful as well if I ever, because I'd quite like to start getting back into hill walking at some point. And then this thing arrived, and honestly, I put it on. And first of all, it's like fleecy, insulated, so it's on for a second, and then my neck starts sweating. But then see when you pulled it up, I looked like I don't know, sort of like a cowboy. It was just like, it's a robber. It was just, I said to Lynn, I cannot go out wearing
cowboy
this.
robber.
You know what I mean? Do you know, I looked like a cowboy. It was just
a cowboy robber.
A cowboy robber. A bad cowboy. Right. That's a fact check for next week. Did bad cowboys...
A bad cowboy? Where the hell are you going with this?
I don't know.
A cowboy robber, a bad cowboy. Right, I need to see this snood.
Do you know, I have an image in my head of Back to the Future 3.
I'll get an image in my head now as well.
Do you know, and Biff's a bad cowboy in Back to the Future 3, and I'm sure he's got like what is like a neckerchief up over his face and a cowboy hat. Anyway, that was where I was going. But I bought this thing. I can't wear it, and in the end, I just did an online shop anyway. It didn't bother. So,
we bought rubber bands.
Rubber bands?
Because we're gonna, because have you not seen the how to make your own?
Oh no, right. So you're making your own. I should do that.
So
Yeah.
you basically, yeah, because you just like get anything like a handkerchief or I
Yeah.
guess a dishcloth or something like that. Dishcloth, that'd be so good. But now I'm
Your
gonna try. I'm gonna
pants.
try and make one with a hanky to start with and see what it looks like.
I
But
mean, I think
it looks dead simple.
I think that it's an obvious one, and I think that you can imagine that if we go somewhere where you know you're going to be unable to social distance, and that's now what
Yep.
we're having to advocate at work. Actually, social distancing is still the way forward, right? It's still the
Yep.
number one because the masks are not 100% effective, right? So social distancing has to be the first thing you always look for. But in those
Yep.
instances when that is impossible for you, masks are the next logical step, and that
Yep.
makes sense. And so I think in the end it's already become a normal thing. I mean, you
It's
think
whether
back 2-3 years ago, the only people you ever saw wearing masks were, sort of people from the Far East that had passed through an airport, and even then people were going, "Oh, look at them wearing masks." It was just
yeah.
something that we didn't do. And when I was in the supermarket a couple of weeks ago, there was a guy wearing a mask with like looked like double respirators on the side. Sort of something you see in Chernobyl.
Yeah.
So it, and
I wonder. Like, so. Here's a fact check coming up. So there must have been some reason for people in sort of East Asian countries starting to do that.
yeah,
So because it must have happened at some point because there was definitely a social, cultural thing. Because it's if you're not feeling well, you'd wear a mask to prevent spread from you. It wasn't to kind of protect you from others. It was to protect. But I want at some point, when did that happen?
right. I'm gonna
And why
write
did it
that
happen?
down as a
Because
fact
it
check.
was there because there's been a few different outbreaks
Yeah, there's
over the
been
years. I
H
wonder if it came from like the first. Was it the first
SARS.
SARS? It was before SARS though. I'm sure this has been a thing for a while. But anyway, it's a good thing to fact check. I wonder where it came from. Whether it has anything to do with
Right.
an outbreak or
When
whether it
did
was just a.
masks start? So that's the first fact check from the fact check.
Could be interesting if they actually become some sort of fashion accessory as well.
Well, they already are. I mean, you're just trying to find them on Amazon. Like you've got all sorts of different shapes and sizes and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that I don't feel that the urgency to wear them when I go out. But as I said, I think when you're in that situation in the future, that if you can't social
Might
distance,
be.
then it's quite a logical thing. What's
Yeah.
interesting is the number of people you see that aren't wearing them properly, and wearing them the wrong way around as well, which is quite funny. So because they are different. If you're wearing a surgical type mask in terms of which way round you're meant to wear it and how what side will actually be a more effective
Protective.
barrier and all
Yep,
that sort of
yep.
stuff. And I saw a great clip on Twitter of a woman in the States who was wearing a surgical mask, and she came to a shop and the guy was speaking to her and saying, "Why have you cut a hole in the middle of the mask?" So she had a section right over her mouth and her nose that she'd cut
So
out,
she
and she
could
went,
breathe.
"It's much easier to breathe." Just like, you know. Okay.
What?
So that's right. That's a fact from a fact check then.
Fact check. Yep.
Right. So
Okay. Next one.
next one was macro versus micronutrients. Is it worth tracking this? Now, I did a little bit of research on this. Macronutrients are obviously like it's kind of split into your carbs, your fat, and your protein and stuff, aren't they? And whereas your micronutrients are much more about vitamins and minerals. But there wasn't really a lot that I could find anyway that says you should track the proportion of micro versus macronutrients. Most folk or most content that I could see was talking about whether you should be counting macronutrients versus calories,
Mm-hmm.
and actually that calories are just purely about quantity, whereas
Mhm.
obviously tracking the macronutrients that you consume is about quality.
Mm.
Because if you're tracking calories, you're just trying to keep yourself within that certain limit, but you could still be eating utter crap all day to achieve
Yep.
that. So
Yep.
that was what I could find on that subject area. It was not so much macro versus micro, but basically more around kind of macronutrient consumption and tracking that versus just purely looking at your calorie counts.
So probably the summary there is eat a balanced diet, and don't eat too much.
I think that's fair, yeah, and that's. I don't think many people would argue with that.
Okay, the next one was, can chiropractors call themselves doctors? The General Chiropractic Council is a UK-wide statutory body established by Parliament, no less, to regulate the chiropractic profession. CAP understands that chiropractors are permitted by the GCC, the General Chiropractic Council, to use the courtesy title Doctor of Chiropractic, which is sometimes abbreviated to DC. So, is that saying that they're kiddie on doctors?
Yes. So they have no formal medical or
Is that like
PhD. Well, I can't
folk-
speak for all chiropractors. That's not fair, because you will have some chiropractors perhaps who have a medical degree or who perhaps have a PhD and have specialised in that area. But to be a chiropractor, according to
in and itself, yeah,
you have
isn't
to.
necessarily.
It's an undergraduate qualification, and I think then it's a postgrad or some kind of qualification that enables you to practice as a chiropractor. But yeah, you can call yourself doctor. So
Okay.
so it's an even faker doctor than I am, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, and also the conspiracy theory doctors, chiropractors. Yeah, that's a hard. You're never going to be able to find that one out.
Yeah, and I had no idea what that meant, and I couldn't even remember.
Well, that was when I'd said, I think the only two folk that I'd heard waxing lyrical about conspiracy theories that also called themselves doctors happened to be chiropractors in America.
Okay,
So-
well, I couldn't. Yeah, I didn't find anything like that on Google. I also hope that my chiropractor never listens to this podcast.
We
Because
should get him on.
the last time I was in there, he ripped my shirt, which was probably one of the most embarrassing moments. He ripped my shirt, no joke. I went on the way to work thinking this is the best way to do it, and really, afterwards everyone said to me, "You went to the chiropractor in like your work clothes?" And I was like, "Yeah, because it just felt sensible." But I had quite a tight shirt on, and at one point he pulled my arm round to do some, correction, and then the next second it ripped right down the back, so I had to drive home and change my shirt.
Yeah.
And he actually said to me, "This has never happened to me in 20 years of practicing," and I was like, "Great." So, however, I didn't have to pay, so that was a good one.
Oh,
And-
really? Because
yeah.
of the
Because you ripped my shirt.
your shirt.
Yeah. And it wasn't an expensive shirt either, so even better. So yeah, anyway, if my chiropractor ever listens to this, then it was you that said all this and not me.
Yeah, it's all me. Blame me.
Okay. So the next fact check was around Outbreak, which inevitably we
Mhm.
were talking about, I think,
The film.
because you had demonstrated some fantastic parenting skills of letting your son watch Contagion. He
Yeah, the first
then
15
never slept for weeks and will remember this for the rest of his poor little life. So anyway, yeah, that was really good of you. But the men started talking about Outbreak, and I remembered that there was some quote at the start of Outbreak about, a virus being the biggest threat to mankind. And so I was
Yep.
almost right. The actual quote says at the very beginning, the single biggest threat to man's continued dominance on this planet is the virus. And I stupidly forgot to write down who it was that said that. It wasn't like Dustin Hoffman. it was someone more, more relevant than that. Some kind of scientist.
Morgan Freeman. No, all right.
No, it wasn't one of the actors. It was a quote right at the start that just
Yeah,
came
yeah.
up. But what was interesting, I thought, in terms of how I remembered that and what it actually said, is that it says man's continued dominance on this planet. So it's kind of alluding to what we talked about before, that actually
Mm-hmm.
the planet will be fine. It's we're the virus to the planet. So actually, the planet gets rid of us, it moves on, probably better for it. So
Yep.
yeah, so that was quite interesting. Over to you for the next one. Quite relevant, actually.
It's going to take me 1 second to read this. This is a genius bit of research from you, Neil. So this must have taken you, Neil, all of what 1 second
Well,
to look this fact up.
See, the thing is, right?
Whoa! Before right on you go. Go and
Well, okay, I'll defend my
yourself
fact
before
checking.
you even say it.
Because as usual, I got a barrage of texts from you telling me that I had to fact check because, wait for it, I do nothing on this podcast. You do all the editing. You can sack me. You don't need me. The usual kind of abuse I get from you each week. So when I tried to put all this together, I was also getting asked to do things by the wife, and I kept saying, but I'm doing fact checking for this. And then the back pain one in particular took forever because everything just says, the minute you Google back pain and then ask about lower back pain, you're on to about page 60 of Google before you can actually get any kind of information. So it didn't seem to me from my 5 minutes of intense research on that subject
On
area
Wikipedia.
that lower back pain is the most common. It just seems to say back pain is common. But I'm guessing for most people it must be in the lower back because that's where most people complain about it. Yeah?
Yeah, I think anecdotally it seems to be, but I think generally back pain. At some stage, everyone experiences, I think, back pain in their life. But yeah, I'd say this is fairly plausible. That
Yeah.
low back pain is the most common form. Yep.
And actually, you were someone with terrible back pain, and because you become a yogi, you're now so much better.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's yeah. Well, it was just kind of a crappy back because
A
my disc.
crappy back. So,
Well, that's
Dr.
what.
Preston
So,
is in the house. Are you a
nah.
chiropractor?
Well,
I diagnosed you with a
when
crappy
I
back.
when I turned 35, literally within 6 months, I'd slipped a disc in my back, and that's not that phrase. I think's a misnomer. Talking to the kind of specialist, because I probably burst a disc in my back. 05 maybe, something like that. And I had to go to get a X-ray, whatnot, or an MRI,
Yep.
just to see if it definitely was, because I literally couldn't feel my below my knee, couldn't my calf wasn't working, my ankle, my side of my foot, just everything went, which is quite scary for a while, and then it thankfully came back, but it obviously trapped and just damaged a nerve groove back, but my ankle's still numb, and so is the
Is
side
it?
of my foot. Yep, side of my right foot. But he just said basically some folk have a shitty back. So in 35, between 35 and 70 is where you start getting people start getting damage to their back, and it's literally wear and tear. Sean was like, it's because you play too much football. You play too much football, and that's what's the cause of this. Because I actually went when I was playing football. But he said you could have done it, taking the dishes out of the dishwasher or something. Literally, it was just, at that point, it was just going to happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how many times I tell Shona this. She's like, nah, it's because you play too much football.
And do you think actually that would be an interesting thing to look into at a future podcast? Is it why between the ages of 35 and 70, why does this happen? Why is it our back? Is it our posture?
He says genetics. It's just
Okay,
a genetic thing.
But if it's genetics, that would suggest that, like, you know, our ancestors, prehistoric man, had bad backs, and really,
well, it's just a predisposition that some folk will have a bad back or not. That's where but remember, it's just a predisposition. So whilst you might be genetically more likely to get, I don't know, a heart attack, you can do things to help sort that.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know though if our sedentary lifestyle compared to our ancestors is part of the problem with that, and whether there's more bad backs now.
I wonder how you'd fact check that. That's worth fact checking. But it's got to, and literally everybody says posture is poor because you're sitting on your arse most of the day in a position that you're not. So chairs are actually a bad invention.
Yeah.
Because your human natural seated posture is basically squatting down, and if you try and do that without having done any real stretching or yoga or some form of exercise that keeps you supple, it's really quite hard to do.
A lot of people sorry, I'm completely distracted because my children are at the door again. So I think the wife has pulled them away. Kind of, remember the BBC I think it was
that's normal. That's the normal now.
It is totally, yeah. The what was he? He was like, I think, the ambassador or something to Korea or something like that, wasn't he? His poor wife came in and sort of pulled him away. Yeah, it a lot of people at my work now have these robo desks. You know, you sort of turn around and they're like, but they're quite weird as well, because one of the medics, that she doesn't actually sit right across from me, but she used to sit in that area, and it was quite funny because you'd just be sitting there working away, and suddenly then she would hear this and the desk goes up, and then she's sort of standing staring at you, talking to you. And that's quite strange as well. I've just noticed it's 36 minutes in, we're still in fact check, so
next one,
right, okay. I like the next one, pale blue dot. So we talked a bit about that, and your question specifically was around when did the modern environmental movement start, and was that due to the pale blue dot, or was that due to the classic kind of Earthrise picture? And when I looked into it, actually, and I wasn't aware of this, I thought that pale blue dot book and that picture was earlier than it was, but that was taken in 1990.
Wow.
And so
I thought it was earlier. I thought that was one of the first ones.
No, but see, when I then started, but then when I went into the next fact check, and it was all about, was it Voyager that took that picture? And it was Voyager that took that picture, and that makes sense because Voyager, I think, left in the late 80s or something like that. So in fact, that's a
Right.
fact check for next week. When did Voyager 1 leave? So it was
Yep.
Voyager that took that picture as it started to get close to leaving the solar system. And if you
Right.
think about it, Earthrise picture was taken in the 60s when we were putting men on the moon,
From
or
the
the
moon.
early 70s. So that was the picture that started the environmental movement. Was
So
the
Earth
Earthrise?
Earthrise in the
Yep.
60s, because it was suddenly, oh my God, we're right. Okay, this.
Yep. And I
Pale
think
blue
now
dot
there's
was
two
this
there's
Carl
two
Sagan.
Voyager probes, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure one of them, so it must be Voyager 1, is now in interstellar space. So
Yep.
that's a fact check for next week. Where are the two Voyager probes?
I think one of them had literally, not that long ago, like within the last couple of years, the first one left is it the Kuiper belt? Kuiper belt?
Yeah,
Something like that?
yeah, I
Beyond
think it
Pluto.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Deep space.
I'm sure one of them's in
Seeing that, actually,
interstellar
the
space.
moon's looking pretty decent tonight. I
Is
thought
it?
you'd have been out there taking pictures.
I think it's the 7th of May is the next full moon. I'm sure it is, and there's a meteor shower that's coming up as well. But actually, what we should talk about too is really important. I read about this recently. Is that we're sending another Mars rover. I think it's going to leave in like September, October time, assuming it can't get coronavirus. There's a fact check. Can the Mars rover get coronavirus? And it'll arrive there in 21. But this one, I think they're designing so that actually it takes samples, and then it's going to leave samples somewhere, and then they're going to be able to send the ship to pick the samples and then bring it back. So we'll actually be able to have samples of Martian soil on Earth for the first time.
Cool. Interestingly,
Anyway.
here's another fact check for the moon.
Yep.
Have we not just spilled? What was it, Mars? Did we not just spill some tardigrades somewhere?
Did we not spell some what?
Tardigrades. You must have heard of the tardigrade.
What? No, I have no
The
idea.
most
what
hardcore creature on the planet.
that sounds like something out of a Marvel film.
It's a little microscopic. It looks like a little bear.
Oh, I know
under
what
the
you mean.
microscope.
These are
Tardigrade.
the little things that kind of
They can survive in space, basically.
Yeah,
But
I
they've
know
just,
which ones.
they've just. I think something's burst open or something on the moon with some tardigrades on it. So there's now some tardigrades crawling around the moon, apparently.
So they can survive in the vacuum of
on the moon.
space.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Right, that's a fact check for
There's a
next week.
fact check. I think even the humble spider can survive almost into space.
The humble spider.
Yeah.
Have you met many spiders that are, well, I'm actually quite humble.
No, it's always really egocentric spiders I usually meet.
The aggressive spider, is it? No, brilliant.
But spiders, no, they can, and I'm sure they can freeze some of them, and they'll come back to life once they thaw out and stuff.
Oh yeah, and bacteria are the same.
Yep.
And there's definitely like certain. I mean, it's not hibernation, kind of a part of that as well.
Sort of.
It's
yeah.
it's something like you switching part of your body off and going to kind of really sort of low power mode or standby, I guess, for a period of time.
Yeah.
That's hibernation, right? Why do humans not hibernate? There's a question for a fact check.
Why do humans not hibernate?
Because it'd be
Well,
great.
Why do a lot of things not hibernate?
But why? Can you imagine?
Why do humans not fly? Why do
You're right, that would be an even better one. But you don't think it would be quite good to actually be able to say to the wife, can you imagine? Right, it gets to like, say, I don't know, what we went November, and you just be like, right, I'm way upstairs. I'll see you in March. And you imagine how great you must feel when you wake up from that sleep.
Yeah.
I mean, that must be the best sleep ever. Anyway, we are so off subject, it's ridiculous.
Right,
so we're doing it again.
Back on it now. Okay, this has to be a carry forward for next one, because does F have a positive impact on the amount of calories people consume? If you know
intermittent fasting. Right, okay, right. Now I understand. Right, okay,
and
we'll
all
carry
you've
that
written
forward.
here is F question mark. So anyway, the next one was, why does black coffee or tea or toothpaste or chewing gum or multivitamins not cause an insulin spike? Because as we said last time, these are the things you can take without breaking your fast when you're doing intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
And what we found is caffeine can lower insulin sensitivity. Sugar-free chewing gum has no effects. Vitamins, it depends. So it depends on what type of vitamin you take.
Yeah,
is whether or not it
absolutely.
has some sort of
What type?
fructose, I guess, in it, or some
What make?
sucrose.
Yeah, how the drugs actually kind of been manufactured, all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
Right.
but sugar-free chewing gum. Thank goodness, because if you're fasting all day, and you're drinking black coffee, people are not going to be allowed to be too close to you unless you could choose
Well,
some
social
sugar-free chewing
distancing.
gum.
That's another.
Right,
That's
that's very
another.
true. Yeah, so that's a great point. Social distancing has been unbelievable
Your
for those with
godsend.
halitosis.
Yeah, it must be brilliant for you.
oh, oh, that's hilarious. Yeah.
Okay, next.
Okay, next is about why is giving your gut a rest important, and again that was around the conversation of intermittent fasting. I'll be honest, see at this point I was getting pretty tired. The wife was nagging at me quite a bit, so I thought, right, we all need a holiday, and the gut's no different because
That
the,
so your scientific response here is we
that's
all
my
need a holiday.
scientific opinion
Wow,
that
wow.
actually we all need to
Yeah,
rest. It's one of the pillars of health,
the
and you're
NHS is lucky to have you.
thank you very much. Yeah, and
Okay, the
so
next one was something you said, and I think we'll probably need to carry this one forward because you said something about when I was talking about intermittent fasting in non-scientific terms. You started talking about cellular reactions and the glycemic response and stuff.
yes.
So what did what were you mean? What did you mean?
Basically, I think you wanted to know like what does intermittent fasting actually do to insulin production, blood sugar control, all that sort of stuff, and
And
basically
how it impacts cellular response? Yeah.
at a cellular level, and has that been scientifically proven to be beneficial?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll carry that one forward because yeah, that needs a PubMed search and a proper
Yep.
a proper search. Yeah.
Yep.
Ne-
Yeah, so I think you were right because I couldn't remember who this was. You managed to find it, so you obviously said it a few times. But the fridge freezer analogy, i.e., when you're uh, taking your energy from glycogen stores, it's like taking food out of the fridge. Whereas when your glycogen stores reduce and your insulin levels are reduced, then your body can tap into the fat stores more easily. That's like going in the freezer. And that was a scientist called Jason Fung,
Yep.
who seems a
Uh,
bona fide scientist, doesn't he? He specializes in fasting.
he does. I mean, I'll be honest. It didn't actually say anywhere Dr. Jason Fung is the fridge freezer scientist. It's just when I googled fridge freezer scientist and intermittent fasting, it came up with him. So
Right.
by the
It was
powers
him
of
though. It was him
deduction,
because
was
when
it right?
I just I
Okay,
did a quick check and that's who I was thinking about. So.
okay.
Okay, next.
Next one again. Intermittent fasting, is it more effective for a certain age? So is intermittent fasting more beneficial for the young, for the old? And again, I couldn't really find anything that specifies that it's better for a particular age range. Just really, I guess that it's pretty much seems to be a good thing. And it seems to be very beneficial for type 2 diabetes. So,
Yep.
again, by the powers of deduction, I put those two facts together and come up with the conclusion that it's probably a bit better for you as you get slightly older, when you might be more prone to type 2 diabetes because of a lifetime of eating poorly and being sedentary and all that sort of stuff. But again,
Yep.
we probably need to, I know we've done
Do a
a
bit more
podcast on
in
fasting,
depth
but we
intermittent
could,
fasting.
yeah,
Yeah.
we should try and get someone on. I think we do need to start getting some guests on because people will be so tired of listening to two 40-something West of Scotland guys talking crap and trying to
Ramble
pretend that
for
they
46
know what they're
minutes.
talking about. Right, okay, last one, and
Right.
then we can move on to the
Yeah.
final
Oh,
15
just the
minutes.
last one. The last minute on the intermittent fasting was that it's not good for children and not good for
Yeah,
people that are pregnant because
yeah.
you obviously have to make sure you've got a constant kind of intake of calories and nutrients and whatnot.
Absolutely. So, children and pregnant women do not do intermittent fasting.
Yes.
That felt like a bit like the "don't drink bleach" of
Yeah, you have
following
to
a
say
Trump
it. Yeah.
comment, which we'll talk about in fake news. So, and the last one was about Morgan Spurlock, the Super Size Me guy, and we were sure that he'd also done a film on chicken and KFC or whatever, and all these different places, and he did, and it was called Super Size Me 2. Holy chicken! So there we go. That was fact check for last week, and
A lot of
we are.
facts actually. I
There
think
was a
that
lot
must
of
have been the
facts, so I
most.
think we can justify the fact that we're at 47 minutes
Yeah.
and we've just finished fact check. Right,
Yep.
so today, fake news,
Fake news.
social media.
Yes.
So, yeah, it is interesting that all this is happening. We've talked before about that, this pandemic happens at a time when actually technology is the way it is. News is available to you 24/7,
Yep.
but you can almost and we look at that as being a huge advantage. I mean, as we said earlier, imagine doing this in the early 90s when you and I were sort of in our sort of our teenage years or early 20s, and this would have been a nightmare. When you only had the landline, that no one had video messaging, you couldn't keep in
Yeah.
touch with people. It would just have been a disaster. But at the same time, this there's too much information out there. Everyone's a scientist, everyone has a comment. It's very difficult for people to try and make sense of the huge amount of information that's coming at them constantly on this. And then you get global leaders throwing in comments and using fake news and their political agendas to actually try and just talk a load of crap and send people off in all sorts of different directions. It's bizarre. And I mean, the obvious example of that is Mr. Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the commentary that he's been, I mean, just today again, he's talking about how he's convinced this came from a lab in Wuhan and he has evidence and he's going to release that evidence, and it's absolute rubbish. It's been sequenced. It's a natural selection, naturally evolving virus. It's not true. But
It's like things like everything's spin, and people can't necessarily see it. So, like him saying Obama left him with crap tests.
yeah,
It's like the virus didn't exist. So
yeah,
even that whole complete notion it is nonsensical from start to finish. Yet you've got the leader of the free world saying it,
yeah.
and
And
you're
you
like,
had
what?
I can't remember her name, but he's not his press officer, but there's a woman that's often interviewed that's part of his team, and
Kelly? Was
yeah,
it her?
Kelly, someone, yeah,
Kelly.
yeah, and
Mhm.
she was on like Fox and Friends or something, and she
Yep.
was saying, "I mean, come on, we must be more prepared for this. This is ridiculous. The Chinese knew this was coming. I mean, this is COVID-19 for goodness sake, implying that it's like
There's
WD
18
40.
others. Yeah.
It's like there's been
This is the
18 other
19th.
viruses,
This is the
and we've just
19th
went,
one.
oh, we haven't thought about that. We should have, And they were saying, no, you do realize this is because it appeared in 2019. But that's the thing. In the past, if politicians had made these type of statements, right, and then went on
Mhm.
national TV and got something so wrong, they would have been destroyed in the press.
Yeah.
They would have been
Yeah.
their positions would be unsustainable. And nowadays, it's like they can just seem to say whatever they want, and
Well, yeah,
they're never challenged on that. It's
that,
so
yeah, that's
strange.
the thing. It doesn't. It makes no sense that there's. It's like that whole thing where you have to give balanced views on
Yeah.
facts, and it's like there's so many good commentators. You say, I'm sure Ricky Gervais has said it as well. You don't get to choose your facts are facts.
Yeah.
Believe whatever you want. Facts are facts. So you can't give equal time to a non-fact just because someone's opinion differs from the fact. It's like it's a
Exactly.
scientific fact. You can't. It doesn't makes no sense to give that balance. However, because you give that balance, or because media outlets give that balance, suddenly you go, okay. So there's someone go, maybe climate change isn't a real thing because because you give equal air coverage or news time or whatever to people that says it isn't a real thing, or there's evidence to suggest it's not necessarily man-made. And even though the complete scientific consensus, consensus is probably the wrong word, but all of the science behind climate change points towards humans being the major contributor, whether that be from coal-fired or energy consumption through all burning fossil fuels, to the fact that we have mass farming and the amount of methane coming from cows and stuff. All of this is human made.
Do you think that? Do you think people nowadays care less about the truth and integrity? Do you think people just?
I think people believe what they want to believe. This the thing that I was wanting to come on to talk about is, and this is the really scary thing, is people believe what they want to believe regardless of what is in front of them, or regardless of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. So
Yeah.
and that's the so I've been having an argument with somebody who sent me some stuff based on random people from Facebook, random videos from Facebook, no source checking, no idea where they come from, no real clue who the person is, and yet we'll put credence on that as being pointing towards the real in inverted commas truth and the
Yeah.
conspiracy behind everything that's going on just now. And I'm trying to outline why that is nonsensical on so many levels. Just the fact that you can't source check it. So if I can't challenge you where you got your alleged facts from, then how if you can't reproduce something, if you can't show me any evidence, why are you believing some random over people that actually know what they're talking about? Why do you think the people that actually know what they're talking about are lying to you? What is in it for them? And in trying to explain, you need to you need to figure out what the rationale for somebody spouting random conspiracy theories because it's sensational and it's going to get airtime for them and attention to them versus people that do this thing or research this thing for a living.
Yeah.
Why would they want you to to think it's actually a bad idea, this social distancing and staying indoors? Actually, we want to do this to control you. And you're like, well, what benefit is that? The economy is going to be fucked, and that is a bad thing for the government as well as anybody else and everybody else.
Yeah.
Why would
Yeah.
why
Why would they?
what?
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. Why why do people feel nowadays the need that actually that, like you just hit on there, that someone being qualified or has spent their lifetime working in a certain area and has an educated opinion and is a subject matter expert in a certain area, it it's almost like they don't have the respect anymore from the general public than they used to do. You know, it's like anyone can just add commentary and their own opinion to anything.
Yeah.
And in the past, probably there wasn't the mediums there for them actually to be heard. And that's the problem
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
nowadays. And that's the connection with social media, is that there's this barrage of information that, again, neither you or I ever had when we were growing up. When you were trying to take informed opinions, you know, I mean, even simple things such as, you think back to when we were at university and we used to actually go and try and find a journal. You'd go to the library and photocopy it. You know, you would
Yeah.
nothing online. You would have to
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
physically put in the miles to go and find
Yep.
out information. Now
Yep.
it's just all there, but that there's so much information. It's not filtered. You don't know what to believe. And even Wikipedia, we all talk about that and how
Yeah.
difficult it is to actually kind of police that and make sure everything is accurate and everything else. But in Twitter, Facebook, not so much Instagram, but all these social media platforms just give these people airtime.
Blog posts, even
Yeah,
vlogs, even YouTube, whatever. You can anyone can put anything out there
yeah.
really,
And the thing is, if
unless
you
it's a
are, if you are, let's we use the example of Trump again. If that is your only connection to
absolutely.
the media, that most people will actually just have, say, when you know all the MAGA fans or whatever,
Hmm.
when Trump
Hmm.
tweets, that's gospel.
Yeah. Have you
And in
ever
fact, if
watched?
you believe the bloody gospel, then it's no wonder you're going to believe what. what.
Have you watched Jordan Klepper
No, I
from The
haven't.
Daily Show? Right. Here's another bit of homework. Go and just watch on YouTube him interacting with Trump supporters at Trump
Oh, I think I have.
rallies,
I think I
and he
have.
he
Yeah,
basically and it's hilarious. And obviously, The Daily Show is a comedy, but it's a news comedy. So there's
yeah,
they're trying to kind of push. I guess they're pushing for facts, but they're doing it in a kind of satirical kind of way as well. But it's so funny because he's talking to people and they just don't get. They're just like, nah, it doesn't matter if what anyone says. I will believe what Trump says, and it's hilarious. You watch it, it's brilliant. I'll
I
do it no
think I
justice
think I
trying to
have seen
explain it.
him actually. But it's not just like Trump, and he's the obvious one. But we've got the same situation in this country, like we
Hmm.
mentioned earlier. You've got Boris Johnson basically talking last week about the UK's success and how well we're doing. And there's a great clip in social media again of you've probably seen it when it's like Gogglebox, that show when you see the
Hmm.
people watching the TV and the clip is of them watching Boris Johnson giving that speech,
Hmm.
and it's like the general public adding commentary to what he's saying, and it's so funny because they go through it and they're sort of going, what? This isn't a
Yeah,
success. There's like
yeah,
what 20,000 people that have died. You
yeah,
haven't, you didn't
yeah,
mean that,
yeah.
and it's just, I think in the situation where we were before. Remember the B word, Brexit?
Mm-hmm.
When that was all we talked about last year, right?
Yep.
It was the hot
Yeah.
topic in the political agenda, and it's never even mentioned now. You know, it
Yep.
doesn't even make the press.
Yep.
And actually, all that kind of rhetoric, all this sort of bluster and, you know, sort of stiff upper lip, we'll do this, it's fine, make Britain great again, and all that sort of stuff. Oh, that's sorry. So that might have all worked for that kind of political situation, but when you're suddenly in a situation like we are just now, where people are dying, when people are
Yep.
losing their jobs, that people want truth. People are you'd like to believe people want truth, and they want honesty, and they want integrity.
But that's the thing. I don't think. Well, this is an interesting point, because it feels weird to say people don't want truth, because I think it's more people think their views and opinions are the truth, because it happens to, for whatever reason, back up their worldview.
Yeah.
And this is what I don't get. It's like I guess people like Neil deGrasse Tyson trying to get scientific thinking built into schools. Not science, scientific critical thinking, critical reasoning, and it isn't really about being able to question things properly, being able to spot stuff that doesn't quite sound right, and being able to go and look for the evidence that either backs it up, even though it might sound a bit mad, or that just refutes it entirely.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't do that, and that's the weird thing that's hit me a little bit. I spent a night on Twitter just reading through, because I don't really like Twitter. I think Twitter's quite an angry, aggressive, trolly, fake newsy type place. It's very easy to fly down a rabbit hole with Twitter. Certainly, I've found that. And I found myself down this rabbit hole of conspiracy theorists. And actually, do you know the thing that was quite depressing is a lot of it sounds plausible. So you've got so folk that want to believe that in the first place, they read that and they go, that's it. That's it. Totally. Yeah. And so you're kind of, how do you get back from that?
No, I know, but it'd be interesting to know, actually, because it's funny you say that about Twitter, because I mean, you know, I left Facebook a number of years ago, and that was actually part of that. I mean, I get what you're saying about Twitter. Twitter, I think, over the last few years has become quite polarised.
I think Twitter's your guilty pleasure, though. You like to go in there and
I like to
argue with people.
I do tend to go in and make a point about things I'm passionate about from time to time, and that can sometimes go well or not go so well. But I think that's why I like the ambiguity of it, because or not ambiguity, it's the wrong word, anonymity of Twitter, because there's an element of Facebook that I didn't like, and I think that's why I struggled with Facebook, because for me Facebook was one of several things. It was people saying, look at me, I'm great, my life is brilliant, right? Or it was, my life is shit, help hun, you know, like this is the end, and it's like, oh no, are you okay, right? Or there was that kind of place in between where people were just posting all their commentary, and I struggled with this whole culture of actually people that you'd expect better of were sharing these type of things, whereas 100%. In Twitter, because I with the exception of you and a few other people, most of the people I follow are not my close friends and whatever, or people that I know. I don't have that same kind of, all right, actually what they're saying is complete bullshit, but I don't want to go there because it's like a public spat that I don't really want to have, and so that was the reason for me. And you know the background there. I tried a month and I was off a month, and a month became 3 months, and then before we know it, I've no desire to go back. But I do like Twitter, and I've recently joined Instagram, as you know, and I find that better. But that's maybe because I've kept it to people that I actually consider that are friends, rather than, you know, the guy who still wouldn't talk to me if he walked past me in the street, but will post comments on my profile or whatever. Yeah. So
I suppose Twitter's more having a conversation. Instagram's more commenting on stuff, pictures, videos, whatever. Facebook's a bit of both. There's a lot of fake stuff on Facebook. It's just people follow these pages and it's just all nonsense, and yet they like to follow them, and you're like, what are you doing?
It's funny, it's so integrated in society nowadays, because even little things over lockdown, such as a random thing, we'll talk about this in a future podcast, and I'm watching our time because we're now over an hour. But I bought a greenhouse, right? So I'll get to the point very quickly. because I'm quite in my garden, right? So I bought a little greenhouse, like a little canvas one, not a proper greenhouse. I thought I'll try this and I'll maybe go for the bigger option if I like it.
A canvas
And
greenhouse.
like a little tent, right?
Yeah, but it must be perspex or some plastic.
Yeah,
It's just
plastic,
not
right?
just
Okay,
canvas,
so
is it? It's got
not canvas. Sorry,
it can
I'm
let the
speaking
sun in.
rubbish. You know what I mean? It looks like a tent.
You're being a
Yes,
great gardener.
That was silly. Everything's dead. So,
I don't understand it. The sun doesn't get through the canvas.
why? I've kept them in a dark tent.
It's basically a bag.
So yeah, I grow good potatoes, and they would do
Yeah,
well in the
yeah,
dark.
yeah.
But anyway,
Just like the Martian.
So let me finish. So
Sorry.
I bought this greenhouse, right, and then our local garden centre, because of COVID, have just gone to an online service, which is great because actually the guy I spoke to today said they're so busy, so many customers. So I bought like £100 worth of plants, and I want to live the good life and be sustainable. So I bought like lots of different vegetables to all put in.
How
this
big's your
greenhouse and
greenhouse?
stuff like that. It's actually quite big. It's an Aldi plug for Aldi. I got it online. But
Cool.
yeah,
And
it's just
have you started? Have you actually planted
did it
stuff?
today. Did it today. Yeah, so I've got, wait for it, sweet corn, courgettes, red peppers, chilies, sugar snap peas, 3 different types of tomatoes, courgettes, and
Courgettes, courgettes.
Yes, and I also bought a a plum tree that I planted another bit in the garden. And as you know, I've got rhubarb, blackberries. I've got lots of different herbs. So yeah, I'm getting quite into it.
So
anyway,
how long
that wasn't my
could
point. No, wait a minute.
Right,
I need to get to my point because I'll forget.
Have you got a point?
And it's such a rubbish point. It's literally just that
It's been
I
4
couldn't
minutes.
get onto the page because it was in Facebook. So I had to get the wife to do it. And it's like this whole kind of, you can only access our website via Facebook stuff.
That's
and
true,
I'm just like, if you're not on Facebook, I must be completely in the minority, but I'm a consumer. I want to buy that, but I don't want to be in Facebook. It's just anyway.
But the thing is, you could be on Facebook just to buy stuff. Like, you don't have to interact with it at all.
No, but you
see, the trouble is you get dragged in. Yeah, you're too. It's not a lot that annoys me enough to say much about it, or I kind of go let folk just get on with it. It's not worth the hit. But this stuff, this fake news stuff, annoys me. And when I'm having conversations with people that you think, why would you rather, even just me, why would you rather believe a complete random than me? Like,
I know.
Do you know, like, what you're choosing to believe someone you have no clue their background, no clue what they're on about, versus somebody that's at least looked into this a bit.
But you get a lot of this, and actually, because recently I've had like my mother-in-law has been sending me some things that have been like, they've found that there's a link between, and I'm just like, so I just texted back and went, this is rubbish, this is rubbish, this is rubbish. And then actually, to be fair to her, she then sent the next message through and went, oh yeah, I found another website, that's rubbish. And I was like, well, why didn't you do that before you shared it with me? But you do find this a lot with people nowadays, when, like you said earlier, when they have an opinion, you'll then try to start going, right, okay, and you can do it in a very civilised and gracious way and go, well, just tell me why you think that, and actually, have you considered this and that? But what they do is they do this classic defence nowadays of just like, no, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
I don't. But as soon as you do that, like, it's like they've lost all sort of credibility, because if you're not willing to, if you're not willing to engage that way,
debate
then what is it?
Absolutely.
Now, I've actually looked at there's a couple of websites. One website, Snopes. Have you heard of this? Snopes.
No.
It's a fact-checking website. So if you ever have that, their whole
I was going to set up our fact-checking website.
Their whole point is about taking facts or supposed facts that might be a bit dubious and researching them and figuring out whether or not they are true or not. But also, folk give media a hard time, but journalism's actually an industry that has there's a compliance angle to it. There's a fact checking angle to it in itself. There's an independent regulator.
Yeah.
There's a lot of media outlets that actually people do trust and are consistently trusted because they tend to be like that. They're open to scrutiny. They'll post corrections if they get something wrong, etc. So, like the BBC, for example, BBC gets a hard time for certain things, certain political views or whatever, but they're pretty. it's pretty much a trusted
Well, I have
journalistic
to say,
entity.
I think, and actually they've done a lot of polls on that. In fact, there was a YouGov poll last week that talked about that if you asked the general public in terms of who they would believe more, and it ran through like, Sky News,
Yep.
BBC News, Fox News. BBC always
High. Yep.
is high up there. It's the first place I'll always go.
Yep, totally.
So and I think it does have that kind of integrity, although, yeah, others would argue with us that they don't.
Oh,
But look, right, we need to wrap this up because we said it would be an hour, and we're now an hour and 7 minutes. Otherwise, that's fake news from us.
Yes.
So, what are we going to do next week?
It's a good question. I was trying to find a quote to end with. Next week, I don't know. Booze.
Yeah, let's talk about, because I've been drinking a bit more as well, actually.
Yeah, I found
And
I've kind of eased off a little bit, but I definitely, and I think most people, that seems to be the general thing.
And I was doing the Tesco online shop, and actually, like, we're going through it, and I'm sitting saying to Lynn,
Make sure,
it's such a good idea, this,
sure
because I don't normally do online shops. I'm going, such a good idea, because like all the heavy stuff I can just get delivered. So I might as well buy a crate of beer.
you find yourself making. Make sure the wine's in. Make sure you make sure you remember.
Yeah,
it's like milk. Yeah. Oh, we're running low on wine.
And Lynn will say to me sometimes during the week now, like, you want a gin? And I'm like,
yeah, we should never do
it's
that.
a school night, you know? And it's just, so
right,
that's
so
a really good
why don't
subject,
we do that?
Actually.
Why don't we do it?
Right,
And then
we'll
just to close out, by Michael Faraday, there's nothing quite as frightening as someone who knows they are right.
There you go. Yep. And actually, there was another really good quote that was about, in fact, where was it? If I've got this picture here, because I was looking at it earlier. Oh, it's so annoying because it was such a good picture. Just bear with me, folks. You can edit this bit out. But it was something about basically that, people who have the confidence to always want their opinion to be heard have historically been the most stupid people. Whereas people who lacked confidence and always questioned everything that they said were often those that actually.
Here's what we'll do, right? Here's what we'll do. As an addition to the fact checker, you go and find that decent quote.
I'll go find that
and do it
quote,
justice
right?
for the next time.
I will do it justice for the next time. But that's
people
so
that are like loud and that, and
well, because shut up. It's your fault. It's because you were late for this. Found it right. Okay, we're going to finish on this. Okay. This is perfect, right? So it was from Charles Bukowski. Bukowski. Right. I'll try that again for the edit. It was from Charles Bukowski, and his quote is that the problem with the world is that the intelligent people are full of doubts, while the stupid ones are full of confidence.
Yeah.
And on that note, be safe, listeners, and we'll see you next time.
Be safe. See you later. Cheers, Neil.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.